Hello all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com, and in this particular video I actually want to talk about whether with the business innovation that you are doing, whether you should actually be doing some basic research on the side and whether it actually is a good thing to do. Is basic research actually in demand for businesses? So in general, what I'm going to do in this particular video is actually talk to you and define what do I mean by basic research and applied research, and then give you some reasons why it's actually probably a good thing to do a little bit of basic research. And I'll tell you probably, give you kind of a rule of thumb of how much you should be aiming for. So with basic research, what do I mean by that? Basic research is generally where you as business or somebody, a researcher, is focused on sort of the broadest, most general ideas they can possibly generate, and they're not focusing on any particular thing that can generate any particular value at this moment. There's no foreseeable value with the ideas that they're trying to pursue. So whether they're doing something innovative and they're looking at these particularly creative or innovative ideas and whether it actually creates value or you can actually see a demonstrated return from that. So applied research is a lot more focused, where you are pursuing a particular thing because you have a business problem and you are trying to solve that particular thing with some sort of research that you're doing. You're creating new ideas, new knowledge to overcome that particular idea, those particular problems, right? So you can see that basic research is kind of just, there's not exactly a lot of foreseeable return with the things you're doing. And that's typically how I would define basic research, is focusing on things that generally don't have a lot of immediate returns. They don't have quick returns. So applied research has quick returns. So returns being how much money you're actually going to make from the thing that you're doing. Applied research tends to be a lot more the returns come up a little bit quicker, or much more quicker than you're doing basic research. So applied research is going to happen. The returns that you're going to get, it's probably going to happen the next couple of years. You're going to see, so if I actually do some money, or if I do some investment here, I can get some returns on that. Basic research is, you're probably looking more along the lines of like 5 to 10 years, even 20 years, right? So looking at things are really far in advance, and generally these things so basic research is going to take a lot more resources than if you're doing applied research, because it's kind of meandering, right? There's a lot more sort of bad paths that you can go, paths that are not going to actually lead you any particular way, right? So should you as a company actually be pursuing basic research, right? Is it actually a good thing to do? I would uniformly say yes, and here's the caveat though. So you have to decide on the mix that you should be sort of pursuing as a company, right? So if you are doing research and development, you should be doing predominantly applied research whenever you're doing this, and development should be very much focused on things that can get immediate return. But then you should always be focusing a small percent, whether it's 5-10% of your research and development on the costs that you actually spend on doing things that just don't really have any particular immediate returns. Google does this, for example. They just sort of pursue these crazy ideas. 3M does this. They allow their engineers to pursue just their ideas of their own, right? There's no real direct relation, or there's no direct sort of motives that could be related to the firm with the things that they're actually pursuing, right? So they could pursue a lot of different things, and it's not exactly common, but companies that are managing R&D and managing innovation very well, they end up doing some basic research. And the reason is it should be part of your portfolio, but the major reason is it's going to open up opportunities that you're not going to anticipate at all, right? So there is a lot of different opportunities that we see. So one of the problems when you're pursuing sort of applied research and you're doing things that are sort of more on the development side, doing things that are just kind of incremental, sort of that you see there's immediate returns to it. The problem is you see immediate returns to that thing, right? So you're blinded from all the other things that you could choose to do, but you just don't see what the value is. And often there's a tremendous amount of value in pursuing those things. You just don't see what it is at that moment, right? So the environment can change, things can change very rapidly, and all of a sudden the thing that you're doing is actually, the sort of basic research stuff actually adds a tremendous amount of value. You just don't see that. And there's lots of projects that come up that are kind of more along the lines of just somebody just goofing around with something, right? Gmail, for example, that's just somebody that was just goofing around with something. It's kind of much more along the lines of basic, just doing, solving particular problems that you don't really see the direct need for that particular thing at that particular moment, right? So the company doesn't see that direct need for that particular thing at that moment. The other thing that could happen with these particular opportunities is that could open up entire industries, and this does happen, right? Where you could be actually the leader in that particular industry because you are pursuing, this kind of strange thing that nobody else is doing, and then that gives you it allows you to build up a competence. It allows you to build up a capability in that particular thing that you can actually pursue going forward, right? So it might be like an LED, right? The LED industry a long time ago. The firms that actually invested in that. There's a great paper by J.P. Eggers and NYU that show that the companies that actually invest in these particular in this particular technology, and they stuck with it for a long time, even though it wasn't sort of a good technology for a long time, that they actually did very well because they built a competency. The third thing that you probably are ignoring is that it is an investment not in research and development. It's not an investment in your company. It's an investment of the culture of the company, right? So if you're doing things that are going into strange routes, or you are doing things that are interesting, these are intriguing to people. These are sort of hiring points for people that are very, very talented, that would love to do stuff like this. People that are talented want to work on challenging problems. And whenever you sort of see, oh, we have this sort of thing over here that we're pursuing, it's kind of a crazy idea. People love that kind of stuff, right? You're going to attract really good, outstanding people to your company when you're doing that. Now, this is to say, when you are pursuing this sort of basic research and going into crazy directions and stuff like that, you could still be very focused. You could focus on a particular technology, or you can focus on a particular, maybe it is, it's a particular knowledge area that you have, or a domain that you have. So 3M focuses on adhesives. They do a very good job of that, right? Everything that they do is all about adhesives, glues. And so they pursue those particular things. So you can be very, very focused in those particular areas. And the way that you get around that with sort of basic research is you just hire people that know a lot about glue, right, or adhesives, right, and they're going to pursue things that they find are interesting, that are much more along the lines of that there's no immediate returns in the things that they're pursuing. And the last thing is that, when you do basic research, you often reach out to like universities, or you reach out to colleges, or, you just reach out to different players that you wouldn't normally work with. And that allows you to do a lot of community outreach, and that seems like a really cool thing for people to work in these, for companies to work with these work with other people and do these, form these relationships within your community that you wouldn't normally do if you weren't pursuing those things. And it's a really fairly small investment. I'm talking about, out of your research and development budget, which is anywhere, probably 5 to 15%, depending on the industry and the company that you are. And then of that, just allocating a very small, maybe it ends up being, 5% of that entire budget that is working on sort of crazy ideas. Well, those crazy ideas do turn into things in the future. You just don't know what they're going to be, and it allows you to invest in the future rather than focusing on things that are in sort of immediate return. There's a great book, if you haven't read any of this, and it sort of talks about this story, and it's called The Innovator's Dilemma. And it's by Clayton Christensen. If you've taken an MBA, you've definitely have read this. But basically the whole story is, when you're pursuing things that have immediate returns, and you're pursuing in that particular direction that have immediate returns, then it sort of blinds you from things that are coming up that you wouldn't normally see. And the innovator's dilemma is having to pick up those things that are kind of they're disruptive. They don't necessarily, you can't really see them from, if you're blinded by pursuing the things that have returns, you're not necessarily going to pick up on the things that are coming from, different directions that you wouldn't have normally seen, that are kind of inferior technologies, but they end up being better in the long run. So that's all I wanted to talk about. So generally, or what I did in this video is I defined what basic research is. It's generally these working on ideas that or knowledge that is less, that has sort of less return in the future, right? You don't necessarily see what the returns are. It could be further out in the future. And it's going to take a little bit more resources to do that. And then I also sort of mentioned with the portfolio that you can sort of set the amount that you're going to spend on basic research, and you could choose to allow people to just kind of muck around with things. And then finally, I went through some rationales why it's actually a really useful idea to pursue basic research going forward in terms of community building activities, sort of getting opportunities that you wouldn't anticipate, and just being a leader in a particular field. Without pursuing those basic research, then it's much harder to become a leader in the field and be known for a leader in the field. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And hopefully if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. And that's it. All right. Take care. Bye.